You didn't tell me about it. I have a right to, half of those proceeds.
Yeah.
And now that she's gonna, she goes and knocks on the door of the old house and says, "Hey, you owe me $200,000 for you sold."
And welcome back to My Divorce Real Estate. And today we have with us a special guest, Mike Snyder with Texas American Title. And today we're going to be talking about title insurance. Like, what is title insurance? How much does it cost? And, what does it do?
What do we do?
Yeah. So we're going to just dive into the show today. And we'll start today, Mike, basically like what is it? Like, it's not a car title insurance, right? So like, what is title insurance, and why do I need this in this real estate transaction? Like, why do I even need a title insurance?
So that's funny you said, is it car insurance? Because we get calls. Hey, I'm going to sell my car. Can I do that title transfer for you guys?
Yeah.
No,
you don't do that. Okay.
no, we don't do that. So car titles and house title insurance, very different things.
Yeah.
So we are an insurance company, and it is title insurance. And basically what we're doing is we are insuring, I guess the easiest way to explain it is we're ensuring that the person selling the house is actually the person allowed to sell the house.
Yeah. Okay.
So was this a house owned by, I don't know, maybe a husband and wife,
Mm-hmm.
and one day his husband says, "I want to sell this house," because he's needs to make some money for something. He decides to sell it.
Yeah.
Without the wife's knowledge. Well, we can't do that.
Yeah.
Because
in Texas, there's community property state, so like if you're be selling a property, both the husband and wife need to be on that, right?
correct. And there are cases in deaths and things like that where who actually is in title, who actually owns this home, and let's make sure that if they're going to sell it, that the title company will look and say, yes, they can.
Mm-hmm.
They do have some debts over here. We need to pay liens, like a mortgage or something
Sure,
like that. And
yeah.
we have to take care of those things at closing. And then we ensure that when the buyer buys the house, what we're ensuring is all that stuff is taken care of, and you own the home now. And it's a one-time thing. You don't have to. It's not like a health insurance or car insurance.
Not rebuying every year.
No. It's a one-time thing for as long as you own the house.
But it covers me for as long as I own the house,
It does.
right? That's the most important part, I think, because like when I'm buying my first home, right, I'm going out there and I want to make sure that what I'm buying, I'm actually getting possession of, right?
Right.
And making sure that it is good to go. So even if I am having a mortgage and I'm putting a mortgage on that new property, making sure there's no other mortgage that was left over, and that the person selling to me was actually the owner, and maybe not like in a situation where the son or daughter is trying to sell the home outside from their mother, and the mother doesn't know, right? Something like that.
Right. And so let's say that happens. Mom and dad die, and and there's a couple of kids.
Okay.
And the son decides, I'm going to sell the house and make the money off the house.
Sure.
I'm not going to tell my sister because I don't like her. And that happens.
Yeah.
It happens. What we'll do is we will find that there was a sister.
Yeah.
And
You're gonna do it.
She's going to get some proceeds from this. But let's say he sells it. The title search doesn't find the sister. Sells it. He sells it to somebody, and 8 years down the road, sister pops up. It's like, hold on a second. You sold mom and dad's house?
Yeah. You didn't tell me about it.
You didn't tell me about it. I have a right to, half of those proceeds.
Yeah.
And now that she's gonna, she goes and knocks on the door of the old house and says, "Hey, you owe me $200,000. You sold my house for $400 or whatever." That's now your insurance policy kicks in. That's on the title company.
Okay.
That's on your title insurance, and that doesn't happen very regularly, but stuff like that happens. And we typically the goal is to catch that before it does happen.
For sure, yeah, because you don't want to insure something that you knew would be a problem, right? Because it's going to cost you a bunch of money.
Yes.
But the idea is that you're covering it for those cases that if something does pop up, you're going to step up and say, "Hey, I'm going to take care of this." Right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And that's awesome. So, and I think that's why we always say it's so important to make sure that you do your real estate transaction as part using a title company, to do that search prior to make sure all those debts that are paid off, that no one comes back to me when you're taking possession, that you don't owe somebody else's money. That's not your money, because like I don't want to be owing the sister money in later on.
No. Yeah, and we'll find all that. We'll find it in the research, and those are things that will show up as bullet items on your title commitment. And those are things that just need to be resolved beforehand.
Yeah.
And if there's that sister, then Well, we're going to include her in the process.
Yeah, you're gonna reach. Hey, it looks like you got a sister over here,
Yeah,
so
right.
we need to get her. We need to get her before you sign off here too. Okay, and then so what? How long does this process take? So like me as a realtor comes to you and I said, hey, we got this house we want to sell. We want to sell it quick. Can you do it quickly, or is it like a 6-month process? What are we talking here?
So the answer is depends. Typically, it's not 6 months, and it depends on a few things. So the title company is we're kind of the middleman in this whole transaction, and we're in the middle of the buyer, the seller, the lender if there's a lender, you know, anybody that has a lien on the house, the mortgage company. So we're kind of in the middle of all that. So if all the things like we can get a payoff from a lender if they're still a loan. If we get that pretty quickly, we're in good shape. If we can find out from the HOA that, oh yes, they've paid their bills, there's no outstanding fees or charges against them. If we can clear all those things up pretty quickly, and that's most of the time, then we can do this in a couple of weeks, assuming that's a cash transaction.
Okay.
So if there's a lender involved, a lot of the documents that we manage and a lot of documents that the buyers will sign at closing are the lender documents. They're not ours, but again, we're the middleman, and so we're responsible for getting them signed and getting them back to the lender. So if there's a lender involved, typically you're looking at about 4 weeks to get it done. But in the scenario like you mentioned, hey, we want to do this really quick, then let's have that conversation ahead of time. Let's understand
what kind of transaction,
what your deadline is, what this looks like, and we'll tell you, all right,
this is doable or not.
We're going to hustle. But I need you to hustle, and I need your client to hustle, because there are some things, for the HOA, for example.
That's probably a big one, right?
That's a big one, because what happens is we have to get documentation from the HOA that the fees are paid, there's no outstanding judgments or anything like that. And that's the responsibility to pay, typically, of the buyer will pay that, or it's negotiable, but we don't pay it. So what happens is, think of Amazon. We will go to the HOA and we'll say, we need this document, and they'll put it in the cart. So we put it in the cart for you, but somebody else has to buy it.
Yeah.
And once it's purchased, they have a deadline, X amount of days to turn that over to us. And if we're hustling and you're hustling, but the person paying for it's not hustling, well, now we're a few days behind, and yes, there are rush fees you can pay, but we try to help you avoid those things. So if we're all hustling, we're all doing things timely and quickly, and then we can do it in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So it sounds like the overall process usually takes about 4 to 5 weeks. Is kind of a good time frame, realistic time frame. And that's what we, as a realtor, we usually put in the contract. 30 to 35 days is kind of what we normally put in a contract. Sometimes longer to when we know if there's going to be other things that need to happen, or maybe because of just the client, the time frame works better for them. But like, I do know that HOAs we've dealt with many transactions where HOAs are usually the last person that is slowing things down, and there's rush fees, and I've seen some outlandish rush fees. And if you don't live in an area with HOA fees, God bless you. Yeah. Because in the Houston area, we do see a lot of HOAs and a lot of associations, and there's a lot of different types of companies that deal with and that run these HOAs. So it can be as small as a single member or a couple communities to these big firms that are running them, right? So
sure, and a lot of your master plan subdivisions have an HOA, and it's the name of the subdivision, Property Owners Association, but they're not necessarily the ones managing it. That's a management company that manages several of those, and they've got processes, and they've got processes to follow, and you're in line.
Yeah. Get in line.
You want to pay more to go to the front of the line.
We're not open on Saturday or Sunday, so call us Monday through Friday these certain hours and take a lunch break.
There's that part too.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I know that makes a good understanding of kind of the time frame. So the last thing we'll kind of dive into in this video, and we'll have you back again on a second video, but we're going to dive into the kind of the cost of, what does the title insurance cost us as a client, right? And typically, we know that as in real estate, any person, the buyer or seller, can pay that fee. But typically it's usually paid for by the seller of the property. They're saying, hey, we're going to make sure that this is okay for you, so we're going to pay for the fee. Right. But what kind of fees is that usually running?
So there are a couple of fees that are involved in a transaction when it comes to the title company. One of them is that owner's title policy. The one we talked about it earlier. This is what it covers. And that fee is actually set by the state. So again, we are insurance and we all sell the same product in terms of the title insurance. So the state sets the price and it's based on the sales price. Now there's a pretty complex formula that I don't think anybody ever does the math. All the title companies, we've all got apps where you can do all the math and find out what the closing costs are. But you know, if you got a
Well, you say that. So you do. Texas American Title does have a good app that you can use to figure out how much exactly your net sheet to. And two, at the Gifford Group, if you go to giffordgroup.com, we have a seller's net sheet that will, and I'll calculate your title insurance based off what the state says, and it'll say, hey, this is how much it's going to cost you based on the sales price of the home. So it really comes down to the price of the home that you're insuring is the big.
It does, and if you've got a $400,000 home, I mean, you're probably looking at a couple $1,000s, something like that. So we're not talking that title insurance is going to be $25,000. I mean, it can be if your house.
Well, it'd be multi-million-dollar home, right?
So there's that fee there, and then each one of the title companies has their own escrow fees, their own fees, and that's the fee for the title company to do their job.
Yeah, that's all the communication back and forth, all the paperwork, and all the
doing the research and preparing all the stuff. Yes, so that's what it is, and that varies a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to do some price comparison in a title transaction, that's the only place where you're going to find
a little bit of savings.
Little bit of savings, but we're talking maybe $100 difference between. There's really not that much difference.
No, so like for price wise, so it's really going to come down to when you're picking a title insurance company, you really want to have good communication, and you want to have, and we do recommend Mike for that. Like he's. And their team they have at Texas American Title is just amazing. So like if you are in need of a title insurance company, you know, you can reach out to them. And we'll include Mike's information below on how to contact the company and to schedule that. And your a lot of times your agent will help you with this too, but you can recommend, and you have a preference in that choice too. So because you're going to be dealing with them at some level when you have to go and deal with the paperwork. Your realtor should be doing most of the communication with them. But you'll be involved at some level with them too. So
and we know that the agents are dealing with transactions every day, and they know, hey, I like that title company over there. They communicate well. They give me updates frequently, and we know you as buyers and sellers, you're going to do this once every few years. And do you have a relationship with a title company? Unless it's your brother-in-law or something.
Yeah,
probably not. No. So that's typically how.
Yeah, but so thanks so much again for being on here, Mike. And as always, we bring you real life experience to all your real estate needs.